Welcome to another lesson of ACT English. Uh, in this lesson, we're going to cover mastering subject-verb agreement on the ACT. We'll cover every rule and trap that you need to conquer these questions in about 10 minutes. So let's get started. So this is the first question of, what is subject-verb agreement? Subject-verb agreement essentially just means that your verb must match its subject in number, singular with singular, and plural with plural. The ACT loves to hide the real subject with distractions, and so today we'll be covering the golden rule, prepositional phrase traps, compound subjects, indefinite pronouns, collective nouns, inverted sentences, and then finish up with some quick practice. So let's get started with the golden rule. So the golden rule is pretty simple. The idea is that you're supposed to match your verb to the subject and not to the nearest noun. So again, to reemphasize, the idea is to match the subject and not what's nearby. So if the subject is singular, then the verb has to be singular as well. And if the subject is plural, then the verb also has to be plural as well. So for example, here you'll see, the dog runs fast. Runs is the verb, dog is the subject. So because dog is singular, then the correct verb to use here is runs, because runs refers to singular nouns. Another correct version of this sentence is when you're referring to plural. So the dogs run fast. So here again, you'll see that the dogs is plural, and then run is a plural verb. And so matching plural with plural, that's the correct way to do it. And so the idea here is to always zero in on the true subject before you pick your verb, as that's very, very important. So that's the golden rule. The next concept is this idea of a prepositional phrases. And this is kind of the first trap that the ACT usually likes to throw. The point being that whenever you have this question of subject-verb agreement, it's very important to watch out for distractions. So preposition phrases like "of the students" are not usually your subject. So if you see a sentence that starts with "the group of students," right? The prepositional phrases is this kind of like group of students, right? It looks like it's a plural because students is plural, but what the actual subject itself is this group of. And because group of is considered to be a singular unit, the correct version, or like the correct verb to use is instead of are, right? And so the real subject here is group, which is singular, and so the verb also has to be singular as well. So that's just one trap. The next concept to understand is this idea of compound subjects. So when you have more than one subject in a sentence, then how do you do the subject-verb agreement, right? So again, simply here, if you have two subjects, three subjects, you're supposed to have a plural verb. So again, plural subjects, two or more is plural. That matches with the plural verb. So for example, when two subjects are joined by the keyword "and," you're supposed to use a plural verb. As an example, like the boy and the girl are excited. Again, similarly, when you join by or nor, again, you're supposed to match the verb with the subjects that is the closest. And so this is a little bit different, right? This is a little bit different because you're not just looking at the two things as plural, right? Teacher and students as plural. You're actually, in the case of or nor, you're supposed to match it with the closest subject. So in this case, for example, neither the teacher nor the students are ready. In this case, there are two subjects, the teacher, and then the second subject is the students. Because the students are the closest to the verb, the thing that we match that is with a plural verb. So are instead of saying is, right? Neither the teacher nor the students is ready is not correct. Neither the teacher nor the students are ready is the correct way to do it. So this is what compound subject means, and these two concepts of and, like what verb to use when you're joining subjects with and also what verb to use when your subjects are joined by or nor. Right. So that's the third concept, right? The fourth concept is this notion of indefinite pronouns, right? So let's look at pronouns. These are pronouns that usually stand in for people or for things, and so let's just jump in and see some examples here. So again, there's two types of indefinite pronouns. Some of these indefinite pronouns are singular, and then some of them are plural. So examples of indefinite pronouns that are singular are pronouns like anyone, each, everyone, nobody, right? So when you have a sentence where this is a subject, so let's say everyone wants to do well, right? Everyone almost sounds like it's supposed to be a plural, like, everyone is many people, but these indefinite pronouns, the rule is that these types of indefinite pronouns which are singular, the rule is that they also have a matching singular verb. So everyone wants to do well, versus saying everyone wants to do well, right? And then the other part is these plural indefinite pronouns. So words like both, few, many, several, right? These are pronouns that are always in plural form, and so should always have a plural verb that matches them. So as an example, right? Many have already registered. Both of them went to, both of them are going to school, right? You wouldn't say both of them is going to school. So again, the idea here is that you have the singular indefinite pronouns, and you have this plural indefinite pronouns, and they have rules that they should be matched respectively with singular verbs and plural verbs as well. And there are some of them here that, again, you'll see here, some of them depend on the context, right? It's not always like you're always supposed to do a singular verb or a singular or a plural verb. Some of the verb that you're supposed to use depend on the context. So as an example, you would say something like some of the cake is gone, right? You would use a singular verb, but you can also say some of the cookies are gone. And so again, you'll see here we're using the same indefinite pronoun, which is some, but we're using different verbs. Is, some of the cake is gone. Are, some of the cookies are gone, right? So again, this depends on the context. It's just a way to do as much practice as possible so you know in which context which verb is the most appropriate. And the fifth concept here is this notion of collective nouns, right? Collective nouns are essentially words that name a group. And so let's look at some of these examples, right? So words like team, family, group, and class, they act as singular units, right? The team wins often. The team win often is incorrect because these collective nouns act as a singular unit, and so they should have a matching singular verb. My family is going to the museum, right? You wouldn't say my family are going to the museum. Like my family is a single unit, and so the proper the proper verb to use to match that with is. So now let's move to this final concept, which is the notion of inverted sentences. And so, this is about kind of like flipping things around. And here it's kind of important to watch for the order of words so that you know the right verb to use. Uh, Here, you'll see that sentences that are beginning with there is or there are, they kind of invert the subject and the verb, right? So again, the main point here is to always find the real subject, right? If you see a sentence that says there are many options, right? Typically, you expect the subject to come before the verb, but in this case, there are, this is a verb coming first, and then many options, the subject's coming after, right? So again, it's not super different from what we've already covered. The idea being that plural verbs should match with plural subjects. So even when they're inverted, you still want to make sure that you're matching plural verbs to plural subjects. Again, the other thing here is, there is one answer, right? One answer is a singular. Is here, there is a singular verb. And so uh, this is the proper way to kind of like match, right? I hope that makes sense. So we've covered the 5 major concepts, right? So now let's kind of all put it together. Subject-verb agreement doesn't have a lot to cover. These are the main 5 concepts. So now let's just kind of do a summary and quick overview. The very important thing is to not be tricked, right? It's to not be tricked by, plural and singular. So the number 1 rule, again, is to always isolate the true subject before you choose a verb. The rule number 2 is to avoid being fooled by prepositional phrases. Rule number 3 is you have to remember like singular versus plural indefinite pronouns and how to match them with the correct verb. And then 4 is to treat collective nouns as singular. So a family of, right? My family is going to Y. Our football team is going to play against this other team, right? So these collective nouns where you always match them with singular. And then lastly, to remember that there are these inverted orders. So when you say something like, there is a pen in my bag, right? There are pens in my bag. The verb comes first, the subject comes after, but the idea is to always still match the singular with the singular and the plural with the plural. Right? And honestly, once you master these steps, the subject verb questions become like almost too easy, right? Because you have these rules in your head, and usually when you say things out loud, as they quickly start becoming the things that are correct quickly start sounding correct, and the things that are incorrect start to sound very obviously incorrect, right? So this is just, again, as the more practice you have, the more better you become at this. So lastly, what's next, right? So you already know the rules. Now it's time to kind of just like practice and just make sure that that is kind of almost like muscle memory. The moment you see a question, you can just have the right verb or have the right subject to fix it, right? And so again, as I always say at the end of every lesson, the important thing here is like practice, practice, practice. So if you're still struggling with subject-verb agreements, just head over to the app. Take there's a bunch of questions on subject-verb agreement questions, and the more you see the patterns, the more you see these patterns, the more automatic that they become. And those easy points on test day, they'll be all yours. So good luck with practice, and I'll see you in the next lesson.